Hello, my name is Anthony Ashe. I am a cybersecurity expert with Team USA. Today, my team and I have put together a presentation slide to debrief senior leaders on the agency's cybersecurity operations and risk management strategy. In today's agenda, I will be providing an overview of the SDLC process, the organization's security assessment as it relates to the agency's capability, maturity model, and the SDLC. I'll also be providing pros and cons of the agency's software development model and concerns with software assurance. Then the team and I will provide an overview of the risk management process and impacts to the SDLC. Lastly, I'll provide leaders recommendations on the cybersecurity operations and risk management program. Software Development Lifecycle, SDLC. What is it? This is a detailed plan describing how to develop, maintain, replace, alter, or enhance specific software. The lifecycle defines a methodology for improving the quality of software and overall development process. So let's get to the assessment portion. So after conducting a self-assessment of the agency's security posture, the cyber community concluded and placed the organization at the CCMI level 3. This is a level which is sufficient and meets the compliance of the organization's security policy. When we conducted our security assessment, we discovered that the agency does have documentation and standard processes, and all those processes are actually integrated with the SDLC. We also discovered that the standards and processes are maintained. However, we discovered that the improvements to those processes are gradual, but the agency doesn't practice the process improvement consistently. Now, moving along to our SDLC assessment. So the cybersecurity community conducted a software development lifecycle assessment and decided to proceed on using the waterfall methodology. The cybersecurity team developed and signed a service level agreement with the service provider that focused strictly on operating systems, security requirements. This SLA allows the cybersecurity team to assure the assurance of the 5I member national software. We picked the waterfall model for the pros and cons regarding this methodology or so. When we picked the waterfall methodology, we found out that, for pros, it's easy to understand, works well for simple projects, and it's easy to manage. For cons, we discovered that it does not welcome new changes to original requirements. It has a risky model, and software is created at the end of all phases and might not be so suitable for complicated projects. One of our biggest concerns with software assurance is that the model is rigid and does not welcome changes in requirements, which leads to coding errors and bugs that could lead to major vulnerabilities down the line. The reason why we picked the waterfall model, even though we have a couple of cons and disadvantages, is that it's more suitable for the federal government agencies, and we discovered that usually for planning, the waterfall methodology actually works very well in terms of determining the level of effort needed to complete a software or a systems application. Now let's move to the risk management. So when we talk about risk, we think of security, because we always usually think risk and security as synonymous. There are two major processes in risk management, which are the risk assessment and risk reporting. Under risk assessment, we have risk identification, risk analysis, and risk prioritization. But then under the reporting, we have communication and auditing. Quite often, we do the reporting in terms of identifying security incident or risk that that need to be escalated to senior level management, and also just in general any kind of risks that we encounter in our project. So risk management in SDLC. So risks should be the center in the SDLC process, and we believe that at every phase of a risk of a SDLC project, risk should be incorporated into it. We believe that the risk analyst or risk manager should be engaged to ensure that the final software product is free from bugs, defects, and vulnerabilities that could eventually expose the organization to any kind of future risk. When we also look at the SDLC lifecycle, we discovered that we have several different processes, which are the requirements phase, the analysis phase, design phase, development phase, test phase, and maintenance phase. In the requirements phase, we believe that security specialists should also build out requirements that are specific to security. An example would be, let's say, a business requirement was to get credit card information from users. A security requirement in there would actually place that that credit card information should be saved properly and secured. Another requirement could also be that the credit card information be maxed so that people cannot view that information. We could also have policies in place to make sure that anytime we pick out credit card information, those information are actually saved properly. During analysis phase, we always look at how the software is going to be coded and how it actually fits into the organization's security architecture. The design phase actually just ensures that developers are able to design and build a framework that helps build that software development or software. We also think that in the development phase, this is where we actually start to do all the coding, and we have websites and places where you could actually verify and provide best practices on how to code a particular software. The test phase is very important for people to test that the requirements are working in a secure manner and fashion. The maintenance phase makes sure that any defects, bugs that are found in the future are updated and patches are made in a timely manner. And this just goes back to the requirements phase, where it all goes back through the whole process. So let's get to some of those recommendations. So basically, once we have actually completed the cybersecurity operations and risk management debrief, we found out that there are some recommendations that we had for national leaders. Some of the recommendations that we do have are that we believe that cybersecurity experts should understand the organization's culture and determine the CMMI level. This will help the expert develop a plan that supports the organization's mission. We also believe that it's best to implement best practices in SDLC. We also believe that making sure that risk management principles are in place in software development to ensure that the final product is bug or defect free and is not subjected to vulnerabilities. Lastly, we feel like it is very important for the organization to pick a risk management framework that fits the organization's culture and meets the mission. In our case, we actually did pick the RMF framework because we believe that it actually fits quite well with our policies, and it helps us be more compliant with the organization's policy.